interwebs, I hope you are doing well, and yes, before we get to the actual review of this video, I will address the elephant in the room. I am indeed wearing Star Trek lingerie for this video today. The reason being is I was actually recording my Sex and Star Trek Part 2 video earlier today, and I'm actually very excited about it. I'm actually having a lot of fun with that video, but I finished filming that and realized that I need to record this review to go up tomorrow, and I figured, why bother changing? I'm sure some of you are not complaining in the slightest about that choice, so why not? It's still on brand, it's still Star Trek, and whatever. It helps get the clicks, But my sexy attire aside, it's actually somewhat on brand because today I am going to be reviewing the upcoming audio drama Star Trek Picard No Man's Land. Now, for those of you who have not heard of it, Star Trek Picard No Man's Land is an upcoming fully cast audio drama that will be releasing tomorrow as of the time that you're listening to this review, if you're listening to this review on the day that it goes up, that follows the adventures of Raffi and 7 of 9, two characters from Star Trek Picard, and in 7 of 9's case, Star Trek Voyager before her, in an adventure set between Star Trek Picard Season 1 and the upcoming Star Trek Picard Season 2. Yet what's even more especially exciting about this audio drama is not that it's just a fully cast audio drama and one of the first audio dramas that Star Trek has done in the past decade or so, is the fact that it actually stars Jeri Ryan and Michelle Hurd, the two actors themselves from Star Trek Picard, replaying their roles for the audio drama, and the audio drama was written by Kirsten Beyer and Mike Johnson. Kirsten Beyer being one of the producers and writers of Star Trek Picard, and Mike Johnson being a well-received Star Trek comic book writer, who many of you, if you've read the Star Trek comics, is known for his work on the Kelvin Timeline Star Trek comics. So this audio drama actually has like bona fide Star Trek pedigree behind it, and I've been so excited for this thing to release from the moment I heard of it, because if you've been following my channel for any length of time, you know that Jessie is a huge audio drama fan. I adore audio dramas. They're actually my favorite medium because they actually have this great mix of involving you as the listener of the audio drama to sort of have your own imagination in the story. You're not getting every single visual given to you because you kind of have to imagine it with the audio part of it, but you still have actors and writers and directors and sound design also playing their part. So audio dramas just become this really great collaboration and creative medium between the audience and the creators in a way that I don't think like books or movies or any other thing really captures outside of maybe video games. And I've just been a huge fan of audio dramas for so long, and I've been honestly kind of deeply disappointed that we have not gotten more Star Trek audio dramas. Way back in the day of like Deep Space Nine, Voyager time, there were a few audio dramas here and there that got released. In fact, there's even George Takei voiced Sulu audio adventures of his time on the USS Excelsior that are pretty fun. But today, I've been kind of sad that we have not seen more Star Trek audio dramas in the vein of Doctor Who's Big Finish line, because if you listen to Doctor Who, there's a ton of Big Finish audio dramas that are truly fantastic. So the moment that I heard that this audio drama was getting made, you better bet I was absolutely pumped. And when I was lucky enough to be given a review copy of this audio drama, I have to tell you, I literally downloaded it and just devoured it in an evening. And I have to tell you all, it is so fantastic because not only is it a really well-written audio drama that gives people, I think, what a lot of people wanted, which was adventures of 7 of 9 as a Fenris Rangers, the sort of group that was sort of like helping people on the borderlands of the Federation that sort of got alluded to in Star Trek Picard Season 1. But also, it does something that I, as an LGBTQ person, was really hoping that this audio drama would do and that we get to see with these characters. Because at the end of Star Trek Picard Season 1, we kind of got hints that there was a kind of a thing going on between Raffi and 7 of 9, but it was never actually made explicit within the text of the show itself, leading to many LGBTQ fans of Star Trek Picard to be kind of frustrated, especially with, at that time, the character of Hugh also being killed off earlier in that season, who was played by gay actor Jonathan Del Arco. So again, it kind of felt a little bit like queerbaiting, of like alluding to queer characters but not actually displaying it explicitly within the show. And while we were promised that that is actually going to be made explicit in upcoming Picard Season 2, it did leave a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth, particularly at the end of Season 1. Going into this audio drama, though, that is made very clear that that is not going to be a problem going forward, because for the most part, what this audio drama does is explore the relationship between Raffi and 7 of 9 as they start to build trust between each other and start to build up their romantic relationship. The first 10 minutes of this audio drama are quite literally just Seven and Raffi sitting down and having a conversation in Raffi's sort of trailer that she had at the Vasquez Rocks that we saw in Star Trek Picard Season 1, and them kind of being on a date and sort of having moments to discuss their feelings for each other in a kind of a flirty, fun sort of way. But as the audio drama gets going and we get pulled into the big grand adventure of it all that I'll talk about in just a moment, I actually really like that the story starts to explore the issues inherent within this relationship and the trauma that both of them have gone through. I mean, obviously we saw Raffi having been dealing with drug use and alcoholism during Star Trek Picard Season 1 and sort of being a recovering addict in those senses. And then Seven of Nine still having residual trauma from her time with Icheb, having lost Icheb at the end of Star Trek Picard Season 1, as well as still residual trauma from her time having been assimilated by the Borg. Both things that come up within these two characters navigating this relationship together. And I think it's just really well mature. There's one particular moment, I won't spoil too much of their development and ins and outs of the relationship, but there was one moment where Raffi sort of makes a choice to protect Seven of Nine's life despite Seven of Nine's wishes to endanger herself in that moment. And Seven of Nine just comes back with a really salient moment saying like, I lost agency when I became a Borg. I am used to have my agency torn away, and today I do not find that acceptable. It is incredibly traumatizing for you to make choices for me, and really calls Raffi out on that, even though Raffi was understandably trying to protect Seven of Nine. It's just so well written and really gets into the pathos and trauma of both of these characters, but also still showcases a very adult, very caring, and very warm relationship between these two. And I really love just the ins and outs that the writing displays, but even more so, Jeri Ryan and Michelle Hurd's performances are top notch throughout all of this. They really give their all, and I just appreciated everything that we got here. Even moving beyond them, though, the other side characters who we meet in this story, the other Fenris Rangers that we encounter as Seven of Nine gets pulled back into a big grand Fenris Rangers adventure dealing with a Romulan coming to attack a Fenris Ranger planet, are actually so much fun. One of the Fenris Rangers that we meet, for example, he refuses to use a universal translator, so he's speaking English, but he constantly messes up words over and over and over again and like uses the wrong word in a situation, and it's honestly very funny and endearing and manages to make him feel like a fully formed character despite the fact that we've never met this character ever before. And I think it really goes to this audio drama's credit that it really makes this feel like a full episode of Star Trek with full characters and fully fleshed out people, despite the fact that we're only really dealing with two characters that we've known from Star Trek prior. And I think that it just has a lot of fun in that aspect. The other thing that I do want to mention too is the sound design for this audio drama is superb. There's actually, the sound effects are fantastic. I never felt lost in what was going on. There's even like small subtle things, like for example, there's a moment where Seven and Raffi get into an argument, and Raffi is sort of like washing the dishes while she's talking to Seven. She's sort of like anger cleaning at the moment, and you can hear like the subtle sounds of like Raffi like putting up the dishes and the clanging of dishes and things like that. And it's not repetitive. It's like very subtle like noises that are very different and distinct from each other, and you really just get this full sense that you're in a space with these characters, and there's like little sounds of the like chirps of crickets out in the night because it takes place at night. It really just, the sound design is just fully formed here. And also a lot of the music that we hear throughout the drama is actually in the scene. It's not just like, there as like background noise music, but the characters are actually playing music within the scene, and it just like very wonderfully gives this sense of character to this audio drama that you wouldn't really get in a Star Trek episode, with its more like horny, brassy feel to it that we get in sort of more modern Star Trek and Star Trek in general, but sort of getting this like Latin flavor and sort of like different types of music that the characters themselves are listening to. Just really, again, evokes that sense of place and evokes like a true sense of character of this audio drama that we wouldn't have gotten elsewhere, that I really enjoyed. Also, it's also worth mentioning that the rest of the cast is also fantastic too. We even got the actor who plays Shax from Star Trek Lower Decks appears in this in a fun little role, and so the full cast part of it is just a really wonderful aspect to it. That all being said, I think my biggest knock to this story, is the grander plot of it all. Because while the relationships and character drama of everything going on here is really wonderful, and also getting to explore the world of the Fenris Rangers a little bit more than we got to see within Star Trek Picard Season 1, is also really cool, the actual plot itself is kind of dull. The plot basically follows a sort of Romulan who has gotten a hold of an old Romulan warbird going to attack a Fenris Rangers planet for a distinct reason that is wrapped up in a kind of a mystery that gets solved over the course of the audio drama. And I find the villain to have been kind of dull. He's basically just standard Romulan. He's like, wahaha, I wish to rebuild the Empire, and I'm looking for power. And there's not really anything particularly unique or interesting about him. There's no, like, pathos that we saw with Romulan characters like Nero, for example, in Star Trek 2009, who similarly had a very small role within that film and was very much just, like, evil Romulan villain. But Eric Bana and some of the backstory for that character really made him feel like a more fully fleshed out character than his limited screen time would actually seem to make you think he would have. And so, but that's not really given with this character. He's just sort of standard evil dude. And then as the mystery gets unfolded, while there's some great stuff in terms of Seven of Nine's development and how she relates to this mystery and one particular person who gets involved in it that I think is really sweet and wonderful, ultimately what the big revelation of the story is, without spoiling too much, I found to be a bit more fantastical than science fiction-y, and kind of took me out of it. Not that I'm saying that you can't have more fantastical elements in Star Trek. I mean, hell, I love the weird orchid things at the end of Star Trek Picard Season 1. I have many problems with Star Trek Picard Season 1, but the weird orchid things, I know people dislike that, but like orchid stuff and like spore drives and stuff, I particularly love that weirdness of Trek. But the way this mystery unfolds, it just kind of like, it doesn't really gel into anything super interesting for me. So to wrap up my thoughts on this review, I think on a technical level, on an acting level, on a character writing level, it is absolutely fantastic and top-notch. And again, as an LGBTQ person, just so wonderful to see two women characters just to be fully out and queer and developing that relationship in a full and unique way that I truly loved. But I think the plot, which by no means is bad, it's not a bad plot at all, it's actually kind of fun, it's just sort of standard and okay. And so while it won't like knock your socks off, it is a really fun time. So at the end of the day, I highly, highly recommend this audio drama. Not necessarily for you to be wrapped up in a cool new Star Trek plot, which is interesting, but it's not exactly grand and new, but because of how well nuanced and well written and performed this story is for these two characters. And I think if you're going forward into Star Trek Picard Season 2 and are really excited to see these two characters get developed more and their relationship with each other, both romantically and with other characters, get fully fleshed out within that season, I think that this is actually kind of a must listen for you to get more of those characters. So I think at the end of the day, I think where this just shines is in its truly excellent character writing that I think is some of the most mature and thoughtful, even beyond an LGBTQ context, than even some of the actual episodes of modern Star Trek, and I truly loved it. That all being said, I'm going to wrap this out on a personal note. For me, please, go buy this audio drama. Please go buy this audio drama. I got an advanced review copy of this. I was lucky enough to be given one. I am spending money on this audio drama, mostly because I want to support more audio dramas like this getting made. I really think that Star Trek has the potential to really do some cool stuff with audio dramas in the way that Big Finish does with Doctor Who. In Doctor Who, you get so many like old characters and old doctors coming back for audio dramas because you don't have to worry about them aging, you don't have to worry about budget, and it's very easy for these actors to do that. And I think Star Trek, you could do that so well. Like imagine having like an Ensign Kim or a Star Trek Voyager audio drama, or like a Bride of Chaotica audio drama done, or like a Next Generation episode or a Deep Space Nine episode, bringing back some of the actors that are still around to play these characters and evolve the Star Trek world in a really cool way. I really hope that this audio drama does well enough to prove to the powers that be that more of this work should be done, because I think that this is just a really cool opportunity that Star Trek has not taken advantage of. And so to see something like this get made has me very excited, and the amount of work and amount of power and technical care that was clearly put into this audio drama just has me very excited to see more of it going forward. So truly excellent audio drama, absolutely loved it, especially as an LGBTQ person, but I think even if you don't care about that aspect of things, you'll definitely find stuff to love here. Please go give it a buy, because I'm going to buy it even though I have a copy of it. Beyond all of that, I thank you for being here, and as always, live long and stay sexy, my friends.